Hey, it's Bon. Let's talk about consoles. I want to talk about what's going on this week with the PS5 Pro rumors, what I think will actually come of that, what I think Nintendo and Xbox are going to do, and how I think things could be interesting with gaming generations moving forward when it comes to hardware. First, if you like gaming news, speculation, all of that kind of stuff, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and comment down below with what you think. If you agree with me, if you don't, I want to hear from you. Okay, so this week we had a report from Insider Gaming, who's run by Tom Henderson, that basically outlined this idea of a PS5 Pro that's in development and could release as soon as this year or in 2024. What's interesting about it is that it proposes that it will be a new SKU, a new product that will replace the current PS5 and will have a focus on better ray tracing performance and will likely be a slim model. Rumors of this originally came out a while back when a PS5 version that would have a plug-in CD-ROM drive was rumored. So there's a thought that this is going to be like a slim PS5 that will just be one model. You will have to buy a separate DVD or Blu-ray drive if you want that. And they will end production of the current PS5 and replace it with this entirely. Now, if you remember the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X from the last generation, they didn't just stop making the old consoles. They had both. The PS4 Pro and the One X were like enthusiast models for people who wanted 60 frames per second or 4K performance from more games that the base systems just couldn't do. I'm extremely skeptical about this report. I absolutely think PlayStation is going to release a new SKU, and I very well think it could replace the current SKU. But I'm expecting something more along the lines of a slim only. I'm not expecting a big performance jump. The focus on ray tracing here was kind of weird because that would just imply like a general hardware upgrade, and not that many games are really that focused on ray tracing. I think we're starting to see that ray tracing, even 4K to a point, have become kind of talking points that gamers don't care as much about as people think, especially as people have been exposed to 60 FPS and up gameplay. People care more about that than anything, I think, or are starting to. So what I'm expecting from PlayStation is actually a slim model that is better looking and smaller than the current version, that is likely cheaper to make. It could have technically new hardware in it, but it wouldn't be any faster than the current PlayStation 5. It would just be smaller and more efficient to manufacture. It could have maybe very slight performance enhancements, but I don't think that's going to be the goal. I think the goal is going to be smaller, more attractive, cheaper to make, and one thing people don't think about is cheaper to ship. The current PS5, if you can reduce its size by 30%, you not only save in materials, you save in shipping because you can fit more into each shipping container. They weigh less. That matters. That saves money, especially when you're talking about a platform or a unit that's going to sell 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 million units. Even pennies saved adds up big time, and this is probably more than pennies. So do I think a PS5 alternative is coming? Yes, I absolutely do. It could be as early as next year. I'm not expecting a Pro version though. The way these reports have come. This comes from my own knowledge. This comes from mostly the reporting of individuals I trust, and kind of picking up their thoughts as well, when sometimes they're saying things they know without just coming out and saying it. Yeah. Now, for the other consoles, I think we all know Nintendo is going to come out with some Switch 2, whether it be a technically just an upgrade of the current Switch, a whole new Switch, Or even some rumors I've seen that some people think they may continue making the OLED switch and then come out with essentially a console again, and have maybe slightly upgrade the switch and then have a console that plays the same cartridges and stuff like that, but it has a significant more amount of power. I'm not expecting that. I'm expecting Switch 2.0, and I'm expecting it in the next 18 months. Xbox is where I think it gets really interesting. I think we've seen Xbox accept that Sony just has the market share with hardware, and we've just seen them not be super concerned about units sold of their console, while they've been focusing way more on Game Pass and acquiring IP. They've also focused a lot on PC, whether it's PC Game Pass or just making sure their games are on PC day and date, where Sony can take multiple years to get their games on PC if they ever do. I think Xbox may abandon generations entirely. We know another Nintendo generation is coming. It has to. We know for a fact that PlayStation cares a lot about console sales and making sure everyone knows they sell the most, and they will 100% absolutely sell a PS6. That's a guarantee. There's actually already been rumors from documents released in the Xbox Activision acquisition that they very well may be planning on a PS6 by 2027. I think Xbox, with the way they've handled their backwards compatibility, the way they are pushing the ability to take like the Xbox One base and stream next gen games to it, so that you can still use that hardware even if it's outdated and the games won't work on it directly. They have done a really good job, like in the bump up to Xbox One X and the Xbox Series X and Series S, of doing backwards compatibility that does upgrades to the games that the devs never have to touch. There's been some really good examples of this, and I've been very impressed by the things they did, even just making games 60 FPS that were only 30 before, and how much better that makes them feel. I think Xbox has the willingness and the capability to just release a faster system like every 5 years and get away from the generation race. They would just basically have a new offering every 4 or 5, 6 years that's boosted up. The old systems will still work, and you may eventually get phased out to you have to stream your games because your console will be so far behind. But they'll essentially treat it like buying a pre-built PC. And in theory, it never gets aged out if you're willing to stream. What that does too is it pushes those people who are 2 or 3 gens behind to eventually be like, okay, I'll grab one of the new ones. I don't really like this streaming very much. So I would be very interested to see if Xbox ever stops trying to directly compete, because you can tell they just know they aren't going to outsell when it comes to units. So they've been focusing on other parts of the gaming business. And I would be curious to see if you would see Xbox just take on a whole new philosophy. The last thing I think would be interesting is if Xbox or PlayStation would ever abandon AMD for their hardware and potentially go to Nvidia, who does the Nintendo hardware, or maybe even go to Intel. I think Intel isn't very likely. They have a lot of issues with manufacturing these days, where they actually have to use competitors to manufacture their own hardware, and their GPUs haven't really kept up and haven't really met the expectations people had. So Intel may not be there, but I would be really curious to if we would ever see Xbox or Sony go after maybe Nvidia. Now, when it comes to developing games and things like that, I would need to learn more about how compatible those things would be. Right now, I'm sure developers really appreciate that they're essentially developing for the same hardware between Sony and Microsoft, but we'll see. They're always looking for an edge, and I wonder if switching to a new hardware provider could bring them that edge. That's all I have for this one. Like I said, subscribe to the channel if you like this. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Like the video if you did. And that's all I have for this one. So until next time.